включая лиц, воевавших на Ближнем Востоке и в составе международных террористических зон.
I would like to note the call of the leadership of the International Security Council of the Russian Federation to the UN Security Council. The West uses all available means in an attempt to prevent the objective process of establishing a new architecture of international relations based on the true principles of sovereign equality, indivisible security, non-interference in internal affairs, and respect for the national interests of each state. The growing demand from the countries of the world's majority for a unifying agenda, which is being promoted today by organizations such as SHOS and BRICS, is opposed by the Euro-Atlantic ruling circles to aggressive propaganda, armed conflicts, sanctioned wars, color revolutions, international terrorism, political and religious extremism. The main organizing and coordinating role is played by the special services of the leading NATO countries. They have a direct relationship with the emergence of most of the current zones of instability in the Middle East, Africa, Asia, and Europe. Following Ukraine, the European Union is methodically losing its political subjectivity, where hysteria over the alleged threat from the East is blowing up from the presentation of London and the war parties headed by it. It is the British, through provocation and disinformation, who are directing the Brussels line to break the Ukrainian regulation, insisting on the forced preparation of Europe for an armed confrontation with Russia on land, sea and air, forging a European coalition to send troops to Ukraine, and peddling the topic of creating an unmanned zone there. Against the background of the mentioned preparations, there were, by the way, sudden incidents with allegedly Russian drones on the territory of the EU. Professionals have no doubts about the involvement of the NATO special services, especially after the provocation of the drones to the so-called shadow fleet of Russia. Let me remind you that initially, the locomotive of the campaign against it was London, which sought to organize a naval blockade of Kaliningrad and our ships in the Baltic. To realize the British aspirations, to cause a strategic defeat to Russia, Zelensky was guaranteed the necessary resources, and a carte blanche was issued to build a literal fascist dictatorship. All the power in the country is consolidated in the hands of his office. The management on the ground is carried out by the military administration. The suppressed remnants of the opposition in the parliament are physically eliminated. There is strict censorship everywhere. At the same time, the Kiev regime itself and its power bloc are totally controlled by the British. According to our reliable data, it is under the patronage of the British Special Services that terrorist actions and sabotage are carried out on the territory of the Russian Federation. The special units of the British Armed Forces are directly involved in the hostilities. Together with the MI6, they are planning the withdrawal of Ukrainian sabotage groups to the border regions of Russia, attacks on critical infrastructure facilities, including the use of unmanned aerial vehicles, unmanned boats and combat swimmers. Instructors SAS and MI6 have planned a series of strikes on the offices and facilities of the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, including the shareholders of which include companies from Russia, Kazakhstan and the United States. We have information on the preparation of sabotage by the British, together with the Ukrainian Special Services, in relation to the gas pipeline to the Turkish stream. I would like to note the call of the leadership of the MI6, the SBU and the GUR to kill all those who are unpleasant in Russia within the framework of the so-called guerrilla war. The addressees of such an agitation are the specially unprotected layers of the population, migrants, radical personalities, marginals, drug addicts and citizens with mental illnesses. In particular, teenagers, pensioners and other financially dependent persons are involved in terrorist acts through the fraudulent actions of the call centers of the SBU and units of information and psychological operations of the USSR. There are more than 120 such call centers in Ukraine alone. In relation to the citizens coming from Central Asia and the Transcaucasia, The British are involved in the reception of people according to religious and national characteristics. Special attention is paid to the recruitment of radical Islam supporters, including those who fought in the Middle East and as part of the international community. In general, each of the addressees is engaged in its own specific work. The coordination of terrorist actions is carried out remotely using messengers and social networks. The means of defeat are delivered to Russia through third countries, and the carriers are usually used in the dark. In this context, the recent statement of the now former director of the MI6, Murad, who openly called on everyone, including the citizens of our countries, to work for British intelligence and announced the launch of a special platform for the recruitment of initiators through the dark net, which will make all existing systems of crypto protection useless. The key threat to the security of the CIS state remains international terrorism. Large terrorist organizations, which are being reactivated in the Middle East and subsequently established in Afghanistan, consider the countries of the CIS and, first of all, the Central Asian Republic as a source of mobilization resources and a priority target for further expansion. After the arrival of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and the escalation of the war by Israel in Syria, we have seen a rapid increase in the number of network communities that promote the jihadist ideology and the increase in the number of citizens of our countries who intend to go to the Middle East to join the ranks of terrorist groups. The channels of movement of such people to the Syrian territory through Turkey and the state of the Persian Gulf are controlled by foreign intelligence. Among their tasks is the selection of candidates for recruitment and the re-aiming of terrorist acts in the countries of origin. In this regard, I would like to note the special significance of the improvement of the joint work of our agencies on the channels of migration in order to temporarily identify persons involved in the activities of the Ministry of Internal Affairs and Foreign Affairs. The heads of the IGVH consider the nearest goal to establish control over the northern regions of the country with the exit to the CIS border. For this purpose, active internet propaganda on Tajik, Kyrgyz, Uzbek, and other Kazakh languages has been deployed. The recruitment of representatives of local communities is carried out directly in the zone of presence. With the assistance of foreign intelligence, the network of camps for the preparation of militants is expanding. The increase of the number of volunteers is beneficial to foreign players. On the one hand, it is beneficial to undermine the power of the Taliban, and on the other hand, it is beneficial to create a long-term center of terrorist threats at the southern borders of the cooperation. Taking into account the experience of the Middle East expansion of the IGVH, its Afghan branch will strive to enter the CIS space under the slogans of building a world caliphate. And the more dangerous the growth of the number of our citizens in the ranks of this international terrorist organization,